Hello bronies and Adventure Time fans, it's Finn the Pony once again, with a bit of an update on the last video I did. For those who don't know, I did a full-fledged reaction to the Adventure Time series finale, which came out to be over an hour long. If you're wondering where it is, it's not available anymore. And trust me, this isn't the first time that this has happened to an Adventure Time video I've done. My I Remember You review way back when I started the channel had the same thing happen to it. And I will admit, it wasn't all that fantastic. There were a lot of pauses, the audio for the episode was barely audible, the ads got annoying even though I tried to make jokes with them, and I was really camera shy, so I messed certain things up. It was my first reaction as well as my first time on camera in a video, but I do apologize for that. Though I would like to welcome my new 100+ subscribers that have joined me since that video dropped. Welcome guys, hope you enjoy your stay. Anyway, with that being said, this video here was originally meant to be a supplement to my reaction, where I describe my initial feelings in more detail. But even without the reaction, I still think this video can stand on its own. I'm going to save the in-depth analysis for my upcoming reviews, so this will just be some loose thoughts that I had during my first viewing, both positive and negative. And as usual, leave whatever thoughts you have in the comments below. It's always nice to hear from other fans of the show. Also, spoiler alert, so I suggest you watch the episode first before you go any further. Alrighty, first up, positives. Starting this episode in the future of Ooh and having the finale be told as a story was a pretty cool setup. We get these two new characters named Shermie and Beth, which are essentially this time period's version of Finn and Jake, but with their own unique personalities and designs, which is pretty cool. Longtime fans will know that this future was seen in the episode Grable's 1000+, with things like the Prize Ball Guardian making their first appearance in that episode. After discovering Finn's robot arm, the duo traveled to see the King of Ooh. At first I thought it was going to be the actual King of Ooh from the Orgolorg arc, but it turned out to be BMO, still alive and well. Man, he must have had a lot of batteries on hand. And from here on out, we get details of the Gum War told to us through BMO, occasionally cutting back to Shermie and Beth listening in. This was a clever way to present the story, starting with some unique misdirection and also giving us the chance to see what became of Ooh after all the characters we love had moved on. Plus, it continues Adventure Time's trend of having really strong continuity by tying it in with the future that we saw in a previous episode. Heck, even the intro was revamped to fit the new future aesthetics. I'll admit it did lead to a scene at the end that was a little bit odd, but we'll get to that later. The dream sequence was fantastic, but that should be a given at this point. Adventure Time has done dozens of trippy dream sequences in the past, from episodes like King Worm, Abstract, and Orb, and this is easily one of the best of the bunch. Everyone has an effective character moment in this sequence. I like how Finn finally convinces Fern that the two of them are very similar by opening up his vault of repressed memories. Jake and Jermaine get to share some moments together while helping Finn out with his dilemma. And probably the most effective of all was between Gumball and PB, where they do a sort of role reversal, where PB gets doused in the Dum Dum juice, and Gumball is the one running the Candy Kingdom. But after he builds his kingdom, it ends up melting right in front of him, likely symbolizing that things will probably fall apart if he ever did get the chance to take over, causing him to break down. Also, nice little callback of using the Nightmare Potion from Orb to bring them into the dream world. I could probably make a whole video breaking this sequence down, but it is one of the most effective and interesting things in the whole special in my opinion. As you would expect from a series finale, there were tons of great references the fans will get, as well as some cool cameos. Marceline's old house ends up being Shermie and Beth's house, BMO's castle in the beginning is full of all kinds of junk from older adventures in the series, the windmill from the Stakes arc makes an appearance, PB uses her jelly bean powers at one point, Ice King sings the song from the first Fiona and Cake, and pretty much all the characters you may or may not remember show up in one way or another, from the more common ones like Lemon Grab and Huntress Wizard, to more obscure ones like the Duke of Nuts and Shoko. The only character that didn't make an appearance from what I could see was Cuber, which is weird since he is from the future, which a good chunk of this episode takes place in. Not too big of a deal, just something I noticed. I'm not saying that references automatically make for a good episode, but it was really nice to see some Easter eggs left for those that have followed the show for as long as I have. Also, Finn scream. It's basically like the Wilhelm scream in Star Wars, you just gotta put it in there. The humor gave me a few laughs, my favorite being when LSP and Lemon Grab of all characters shared a kiss. That alone would have been hilarious, but seeing LSP's face pucker up afterwards was even funnier. Hey, you just kissed a lemon, what do you expect? Granted, it's not the best kiss in the special, but it comes in a close second. Then there's stuff like the Duke of Nuts' plan, Lemon Grab's unmake me message, and of course plenty of one-liners from Jake. Not a ton of great comedic moments, but a few standout ones for sure. But in my opinion, the most effective element of this whole special was Finn's characterization. I've mentioned in the past just how mature Finn has grown as the show has progressed, and it is in full force here. At the beginning of the series, in episodes like the Enchiridion, Finn was very violence happy and tended to just charge into battle, swinging his sword and screaming at the top of his lungs. Not really his fault, he was just a kid that loved adventure. But as shown in the finale, he's really learned to think before he acts, realizing that things would be a lot better for both sides if they used peaceful methods and love to solve the problem. Even when confronted with obstacles like PB's stubbornness and Fern's unstable mindset, he convinces himself that stopping conflict is the way to go, and in the end, PB even admits that he was right all along. Finn's come a long way from the first season, and it's great to see his maturity in full force in the series finale. And lastly, we gotta talk about the one part that is unanimously loved by everyone who's seen this episode, the ending montage. It's just beautiful. We get to see all of our favorite characters one last time before the end, all set to the song Come Along With Me, which longtime fans have been hearing in the credits since the show's beginning. I can't even do it justice. It's just one of the best send-offs to a series I've seen in a while. Heck, it's even been trending on YouTube for a few days. It's great to see a series finale getting such huge attention, and it is completely well deserved. So with that out of the way, let's talk about a few problems I've noticed as well. Let's start with the biggest one, which is that the plot felt really bloated overall. Basically, the finale is broken up into 4 portions: the future stuff, the Gum War stuff, the fight with Gorb, and the dream sequence. And to the writer's credit, I think they did the best they could with only 44 minutes. But I do feel like the story could have been a lot more if we only cut one of these 4 portions. I was thinking it would be good if the Gum War was maybe given its own arc in the same fashion as Stakes or Islands, and then maybe the finale involved having to deal with Gorb, or even vice versa. I mean, both stories were being built up for a while, and either one would have made for a solid conclusion, but trying to do both made things feel kinda half-baked, and it would have been nice if we had one central conflict to deal with instead of multiple ones at once. Again, I mostly blame the time limit for this, but I do feel like the finale could have been more than it was. Second, I really wish there were more Finn and Jake interactions in this episode. Finn and Jake are the heart and soul of the show, the characters we've been following since the beginning, and the times they interact often lead to episode highlights, like the talk they had on the iceberg in Evicted, or most of the episode Cloudy from the Elements arc. The show's often at its best when these two are doing their thing, but sadly we don't really get a lot of that in this episode, which is disappointing. It's not exactly crucial for these two to hang out in the finale, but considering how at the beginning of the show it was just these two going on adventures together, having them go on one last one would have been a nice touch. Third, it was a shame that certain characters didn't really have any standout moments. Like I said, the overdose of cameos was cool to see, and they did include some nice little tidbits for longtime fans, but I would have been willing to sacrifice some of those cameos if it meant that characters like Flame Princess, Nepter, or Huntress Wizard were given some more time to shine. I mean, when we first see everyone, they're all suited up in battle armor, ready to take on anything that gets in their way. And while all of them do get to do a little bit of fighting and maybe drop a line or two, most of them are just background assets to the story and barely contribute at all. Now don't get me wrong, the character moments they do include are great, like Fern's redemption and Betty's awesome self-sacrifice, but having things like these for other characters would have been appreciated. It's another thing that a longer runtime could have fixed, but we weren't so lucky. And lastly, this isn't really much of a bad thing, but just an observation. And that's that the ending scene where Shermie grabs the Finn sword out of the new treehouse does make the series feel a little open-ended. In some ways, it does make sense. They're passing the torch onto a next-generation adventuring duo. But for some reason, it feels like they're setting things up for another series. I hear from some people that they're planning to release a new season of Adventure Time exclusively in comic form, so maybe this is similar to the Avatar "Where is my mother?" line, which is essentially them saying, buy our books to find out. But it would have been nice if they ended the series on a much more solid note. Now, like with most episodes, my opinions are inclined to change after I watch it a few times, but if you want my thoughts at the moment, I'd say this was pretty satisfying. Bloated plot and missed opportunities aside, this ending gave us a healthy combination of past reminders, present changes, and future promises, showing how Adventure Time has grown from a silly little cartoon to one of the founding fathers of modern-day animated shows. I'm sure I'll notice a few more things, both good and bad, when I make my full review, but as is, I had an excellent time on my first viewing. And speaking of a full review, don't forget to stay tuned for my upcoming channel event, Adventure Month, where I dedicate an entire month to videos about this show. Top 10s, discussions about world building and character maturity, and of course a full review on the finale will all be subjects of videos during that month. I won't give you a specific date in case my schedule gets all weird, and it often does, but be sure to stay tuned for a whole lot of AT content to come. In conclusion, Adventure Time stands as a pioneer of the animation renaissance. Before Adventure Time, there was a period where cartoons were struggling to stay afloat, with animation channels either giving up completely or failing to stay in the limelight. But in 2010, when this show came out, the years that followed produced some of the best cartoons we got in years. From Steven Universe, to Regular Show, to Star Versus, to Wander Over Yonder, to Gravity Falls, to We Bare Bears, and beyond. Everything began with this goofy little adventure, and we would likely not be here today if not for its influence. This show not only brought me years of happiness and even helped me to bounce back after one of the biggest emotional slumps in my life, but it inspired me. It inspired me to start this channel and start reviewing. It inspired me to take up writing as a hobby and even put some time into writing my own fantasy series that I hope to release one day. It showed me how creativity can blossom into something so amazing. If you just look at a picture of the Adventure Time cast, there are no two characters that are alike. Not in design, not in personality, not in backstory, not at all. The only thing they all have in common is that they all found a place in my heart and will likely stay there for years to come. Pendleton Ward has done what many cartoon creators aspire to do, and whether or not you like the show on an interest level, you cannot deny what it has done for cartoons as a whole. In the same way my channel OC will always carry the Finn name and likeness, I will always carry the spirit of this brilliant, revolutionary, mathematical show with me no matter where I go. Remember that the theme song says the fun will never end, and it won't, as long as we remember to always keep its memory alive. Long live Adventure Time, long live Ooh, long live Penn Ward, and long live the hundreds of minds that this show has inspired and the hundreds of hearts that it has touched. So long, Bronies and Adventure Time fans, and I hope to see you all real soon.